Right, so hello and welcome to another Friday Focus Careers in Sport. Personally, this is what I'm really excited for. This is I'm not going to big him up too much, but Steve Sallis, honestly a personal hero of mine. This guy is awesome. I mean, I can talk about uh, Brighton and Hove Albion scholar, footballer, going on to do education in sport, going on to be deputy headmaster, going on to be shortlisted for Teacher of the Year. I mean, and then educating football, writes books, Millwall, so much, Steve, so much. I don't know where to start. This is one I think we could actually start a series of like a few months, just coming in, having a chat about your journey to get you. So the first thing I want to do is let's talk about your journey. Give me your journey from Brighton Hove Albion days right through till now.
Well, I call myself a failed footballer, don't I? So it's quite straightforward. I played really badly as I got older. Every year I went down a division, so that's the first thing. So yeah, football was a big part of my life, as it is for the listeners. But I had parents that told me to what we call dual pathway: do well in school and do well at football. But I think it's really important for your listeners to understand that when I left school, I failed my GCSEs. I didn't get anything. And
Wow.
I didn't get any GCSEs for a couple of reasons. The first reason was because my parents separated when I was about end of year 9. And that wasn't anything that really affected me, I think, at the time that I was aware of. But when I look back on it and think, when your dad leaves home and then a year later my brother left home to go to uni, I pretty much brought myself up from about 14 to 19 because my mum then went to uni at 40. So I think
Wow.
that there were a lot of transitions in my life, and I stopped turning up to school on time, and I had a couple of teachers that were really mentoring me at the time. So I think again, I'm really thankful to the teachers that showed real love to me and kindness. I went as a scholar at Brighton and then got released very quickly, which was not a problem. So I got released at 19 after 3 years there. And then in the meantime, I'd gone and done retakes at night school and then A levels and scraped some A levels really. And then was in a position when I got released from Brighton to go to uni. So your listeners clear, I went from Brighton up to Greenwich University. And this is really important for the kids listening. When I went to uni and I studied physical education, it was the first day ever that I love learning. And I'm thinking, I didn't really love school and I didn't really hate my A levels. A levels were hell, like the worst thing ever.
Mine too, absolutely, mine too.
Yeah, and I got to uni and my lecturer in the first university lecture said, "Are great athletes, are they born or made?" And it was a light bulb for me, like wow, like this is what learning could feel like.
Yeah,
Because I never associated learning with fun.
no,
And so I'm like waffling around on this answer really, but I think it's really important that I connect with the listeners and say, I am just a bloke called Steve trying to help people. I say in my book that I'm not brainy, that I love the difference between me and the bloke down the road or the lady down the road is that I love learning more than them. I think that's my big passion. And I think what I want your listeners to keep understanding is that if you love learning, you can do really well. So don't label yourself as like I'm brainy or I'm not brainy. That doesn't exist. Young people think it exists, but they don't. So I think my real successes have come from my failures. And when you have lots of failures, when you have the successes, you appreciate the successes. And obviously, we've become friends over the last 4 to 5 years, and we talk about the importance of teamwork a lot, don't we?
that's right.
So we understand that I couldn't have had the success that I've had without that. So anyway, it's important that listeners know I did 17 years as an inner London school teacher. I worked in 4 failing schools. So there was lots of gang culture, lots of violence, lots of real high-end, difficult children, difficult families. And without those experiences, Colin, there's no way on earth I could do what I do now. I'm obviously a corporate executive leadership trainer. I work with the national football team. I work with Scottish Football Association on their pro license and the A license, which I've just been given a contract for that, which is amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well chuffed, really, really chuffed.
Well chuffed.
So really, I left teaching to go to Millwall as one of the academy management and headed up the welfare department and education department. And so football and education are 2 real main strands. And obviously, and then the book called Educating Football sort of made complete sense.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Steve, you talked about your time at the school in London. There's a story I can remember you telling me, one of the first stories you ever told me, and it was about, I think it was going to a cup final or a cup game, and you only had 9 kids in the minibus, and they were saying to you, "Sir, this isn't right. You've stitched us right up by taking 9 kids." Do you remember the one?
It was. I've got lots of school stories. Yeah.
And then the kids turn and go, "No, I've not stitched you up. It's those boys aren't playing because they've not been doing their schoolwork."
Yeah, true.
And that's decent. Now, I remember that one, and that's something I've taken to my education, to my cohorts when I'm teaching, and go, I don't mind dropping people from the team because it's going to make you work better as a team, isn't it? Because it is teamwork.
Well, culture and behaviour. I wrote a chapter in my book called Mario Balotelli, Blame Him or the people that created him.
Right.
I would love to know if his coaches, when he was a youth player, just said, "Don't worry, Mario, not a problem. You can muck around at school. You can be dysfunctional. You can be rude to teachers, but because you're good at football, we'll play you on Saturday."
Yeah.
But that's as far opposite of where I'm at in my life. How can we let young people understand that it's okay to be dysfunctional, which it isn't? It's not okay to be rude to teachers. It'll never be okay. It'll never be okay to be rude to anybody. Forget that. It's just not appropriate behaviour. And then say it's all right. You can have play out the weekends. Under my watch, you're not playing. And the reason you're not playing is not because I'm some autocratic draconian. I have 2 sayings. Every behaviour needs a consequence. And remember, good behaviour also needs a consequence as well as bad behaviour. And short-term sanction for long-term reward. Meaning that in the short term, we need to make sure that we got young people that push boundaries, because we know young people push boundaries. But the long term is, if the child chooses, and this is the language that I use with young people, if they choose to behave appropriately, then the reward is that they do get to play football on a Wednesday for their college or their club, linking to the SCL cohort. So it's quite easy. It's a choice that they make. And a lot of my work is around educating children and young people and old people on their choices, which are an opportunity, not a threat. And I think young people get a get out with it's acceptable just to behave appropriately. No, it's not. Now, again, when we're looking at whole school cultural change with thousands of kids that are difficult, you need loads and loads and loads of good teachers. Yeah. So when I talk about in the book about we, not me, I really mean we, not me, because it's not about me, Colin. It's about loads of good staff all contributing to the goal of a better school, a better team, a better workforce, a better community, a better society.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. It was, I'm listening away to Steve. I could honestly, personally, I could sit, that and listen to the stuff you say, because I get it, because it's like common sense. To me, it's all common sense, and that's what I love about the way you talk. So for me, Mr. Whittock, Mr. Tamplin, right? They were my 2 teachers at school, and they were the ones inspired me that when I got into teaching, all I wanted to be was like them. That's what I like. And actually, I'll give a shout out to Mr. Tamplin, because he's actually on my friends list on Facebook. How about that? That is decent, isn't it? Yeah. Decent. So, Steve, teacher for you, who was that teacher that went, you just said at Greenwich, was that the guy that you look back to now and go, that was my teacher, that was the one that taught me the best lessons and got me to where I am?
Really interesting. Most people would think that my great teachers were my PE teachers, but they weren't. Really interesting. My brother, it's important that we look at a family connection. My brother, who's older, he's a PE teacher. He's now a head teacher in Malaysia.
Oh, wow.
I think sport was just a massive, huge passion of mine. But the teacher that really got the best out of me was, believe it or not, a teacher that never taught me. Right, here we go. Yeah, it's really interesting. And she saw me in the corridor when I was about 13 crying. And she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I'm not okay." She said, "What's happened?" I said, my parents are sort of like having a bit of argument today. I didn't really know what's going on. So anyway, she said, "You're Steve Sallis, aren't you? You're Ian's little brother." I said, "Oh, yeah. So anyway, she was a history teacher called Miss Lewis. And she was the kindest woman that I've ever met in a school. And she made me feel safe, and she made me feel valued, and she would spend time with me. And she never taught me. This is what's created that relationship. And then one day she said, "Oh, we've got a ski trip, in 12 months' time. Would you fancy coming on that?" And I went, "Yeah, okay." And obviously most people know I'm ski obsessed these days, but she was the one that hooked me in. So it's a real different story, because most people talk about their great teachers as someone that was their teacher. Another one that was a real influence on me was my form tutor, Mr. Hickman. He was I still say this, he's the strictest teacher I've ever worked with. Right. He gave us lines for everything. He made us read books. Like if we were a minute late, we get lines. Like a second late, we get lines. But he taught me about discipline. So he was strict, but he had our back. He was loyal. He was reliable. He was really reliable. Yes. So how interesting that I'm admiring one person that was really kind and someone else that's really strict. But in my teaching career, I think I took both strands of them and try and molded myself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I look at these two teachers. For me, they both taught history, so that's the subject I love. But both of them were innovative. They just always got the student. Do you know what I mean? That's one of the things SCL are all about, is that the students at the centre, and they put us all at the centre. No matter who we were, they wove us into their web and got us working. They really did. They're ace, and that's what I've tried to emulate as a teacher myself. So big sign behind you, Educating Football. There's your book. Tell us about your book, because a lot of people read it. Let's hit it. Excellent. Look at that. Right. What gave you the inspiration for that, Steve? What gave you the inspiration?
Right. First and foremost, this is important. I'm going to remind the kids that are listening. I am not brainy. You will know this. I'm very passionate. Yeah. And my passion for people, my passion for connections, my passion for relationships, my passion for the energy that you feel. That's why I was so excited about talking to you today, Colin, because you always give good energy.
Thank you.
You are a selfless character. You are a thoughtful guy. You're wise. You're respectful of other people.
Mate, I'm blushing now. I'm blushing.
Qualities. But I think it's important that the people that are listening, you see my social media profile. Wow. Colin, you know me better than most. I have lots of vulnerabilities in my life. I have lots of things that aren't quite right. I have lots of things that I need to keep working on. So the book came about because, firstly, I always loved writing. I wasn't any good at it, but I loved it. Now, when I struggled at school, I never ever thought in years to come I'd have a degree, and I never thought I'd have a master's degree. My master's degree was in educational psychology and leadership. So most people in the football industry call me a sports psychologist. I'm not a sports psychologist, but I use sports psychological techniques to enhance players' performance, obviously the elite athletes that I work with one-to-one. My point being is that when I was doing my master's degree as a vice principal, it was a 3-year part-time degree. I was so working full-time job. I don't know how I did it. It brought me to tears a couple of times with the stress. When I finished my master's, I literally joined Millwall that January 2014. Yeah, and I was in such a habit of writing, because of my master's had now finished. I'm not sitting at home going, what am I going to do with myself? It was like I'd conditioned myself to just work really hard in the evenings. And then we're having breakfast one morning about 4 weeks into the job, and Seb Barton, the goalie coach, and now works at Arsenal, he said about this guy, he's written a book. Oh, wow. Oh, this guy, and all the coaches went, he's written a book. And I sat there and I went, are they that impressed by this guy, written a book? And I swear to God, Colin, I went to the pub that night. It was a Thursday. I said to all my friends at the pub, I'm going to write a book. They all laughed at me, right? I said, no, you're not. Yeah, as you do. Yeah, and 5 years later, the book got published, and it's out, and obviously it's sold 2,500 copies all around the world. So I'm really grateful, because the book is the most non-football book ever, isn't it? It's not about football, it's about life.
Yeah, it's about being decent people.
But I really would hope that we've got lots of young listeners who are going to tune into this, and old, right? And old people. But if you are a good person and you give love, you get love. If you give hate, you get hate. Where we need great educators with these young people is that a lot of young people haven't got a history of how to show love, how to feel love, and how to connect with people.
I love that.
And that's when you need great teachers around you. And I don't mean one, I mean cohorts of people to culturally change schools or colleges or clubs around them.
Yeah, perfect, mate.
To adults is if and this is me plugging the business here, if they think that there's a gap in their toolbox, in their behavioural toolbox, as you know, we work together closely because I work with SCL on a lot of things. I think that I can definitely help with that. And what I can't help with is tell you what to do for what kid, but what I can do is try and give you more tools to be able to choose what tool for what kid.
That's right. That's right. Definitely.
I hope. You tell me what have been the take homes from our work together?
It's like a if I can be honest, right? So I can only be honest. So what you say is usually stuff that I probably know inside, but sometimes when you say it, you put it across in a way for me that makes me think and goes, do you know what? Steve's given me the, like you say, the tools to implement it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I know I can fix my bike, but if all I had was a hammer, I wouldn't be very good at fixing my bike. But what you do is you give me a set of Allen keys, a spoke wrench, you give me a socket set, so I actually go down there and fix my bike properly with the right tools. That's how I kind of the best of analogy I can think of to kind of explain
that's
how you do it for me.
And the reason I do that, Colin, is because people don't want to be told what to do. No one wants to be told what to do.
No.
So a lot of my work is around influencing people, not telling people. You can't tell anyone what to do. What you have to do is they have to have a choice.
That's it. And sometimes that's it. They have that choice. And we see it with students. They have that choice and they either take it or they don't. But like somewhere along the line, I don't know about you, I know for me, I got down a road in my life and I made that choice. And I thought, do you know what? The penny's dropped at this point. This is the point the penny dropped. And this is when I'll start actually making the changes, which are the right changes for me and going to the right path for me. But the penny does drop, doesn't it? So for you, Steve, then, was there a moment? I mean, like I look at it, I go, Brian Hove to now CEO of your business, author, like all the things you can't, all the laureates you have. Was there a moment along there? Did you ever realise or think when you were that 16, 17-year-old footballer, this is where you're going to end up today? Where do you want to end up?
Where do I want to end up? It's funny, right? You know, on Facebook recently, there's been that copy and paste, right? And it says, remember what you first said when you saw me as a footballer. It's been going on Twitter, and it says, the first thing that you saw and be kind. It's really interesting that loads of people being like some really, really nice comments. Most people take the mick out of me because they say I was always injured, which I was. I was injured than any player ever in the history of football. But a lot of people say, even as if the first thing they saw, they say like I was talented, I ran the show, but they said I was even opinionated, Colin, even then.
Right.
So what's really interesting is that even as a young person, I think I had really strong values and ethics and morals about what I thought was right and what I thought was wrong. Now, this is a real key story for everyone to know. I've got a mindset project in school. It's called My Future Self, right? So will your future self thank you for the decisions that you make today? So for the young people listening, will your future self thank you for being lazy? No. Will your future self thank you for being rude? No. Will your future self thank you for being kind to everyone? Yeah, of course it will. And I just think it's really important that people need to connect their behaviours all of the time to what they want in the future. I was at school with a girl called Megan in year 7. She was getting bullied. And obviously I don't like bullies. Who does like bullies? And she was really creative, arty, and I was sporty. You would never connect us as friends at school because the sporty kids didn't hang around the creative kids. No. And I said to the bully, and I said to him, you can't do that. Like, that's not happening. Anyway, she's 11 and I'm 11. And then did I think 30 years later, I'm not that old. Did I think 30 years later, she would own one of the top PR companies in the world? And her clients, this is a true story, are Ian Wright, Russell Brand, Tom Daly. She took Joe Wicks from obscurity into seniority, PE with Joe Wicks, which is why I managed to meet Joe Wicks at his world record. So it is, if there's ever a metaphor to treat everyone well, when I met her at 11, I didn't think she's going to open doors for me 30 years later. But she has, big time.
And that's a massive story, isn't it? You never know. You never know what's going to happen down the road.
Connections. And I think in all those young people that you work with at SCL, some people the kids will be closer to, but if those kids don't realise that there could be someone in the back of the room that they might make fun of, and in 20 years' time they might need that person.
No, I love that. So you had an amazing journey, right? Somewhere along that line, there must have been. What was your hardest moment along that journey to get to here? How do you overcome it? Because everybody faces challenges. I mean, I don't like the word problem because I think it's not a problem. It's just a challenge. It's something for me to sort out and move through. So the hardest challenge you had, You broke it down. You got to where you are. What was it? What was your biggest challenge?
Probably failing my GCSEs and ringing up my mates who had all passed. And I cried again. I love this. I'll probably say I cry all the time, but I'm quite an emotional guy, right? But when your mates have all done well and you haven't done well, right? I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
It was just embarrassment. They all go into the park to, unfortunately probably have a few drinks, which they shouldn't have been doing at that age, but they did. And I'm like, wow, like I've not spent 5 years at school. Remember, I've spent like 12 years at school, haven't I? 11 years at school. It's not, it's my whole primary age. So really, this is what I'm saying about failure. Failure made me. Yeah, because if I'd had a life of niceness, everything gone well, then obviously I'm not going to have the resilience to bounce back. So if I'm honest, that feeling of failing at school, not only was it embarrassing, it gave me a massive kick up the backside to go again. And then, so this is what I say in the book. 1 year I'm stupid because society says I'm stupid because I've got no GCSEs. And then a year later, I get 8 A to C's.
Yeah.
Now, remember, if I don't go and do retakes, I'm walking around society for the rest of my life thinking I'm stupid. And how many people are walking around England right now and China and Brazil and America are walking around thinking they're stupid because of what they did at school?
Yeah,
school
100%.
So I think where I'm going to give you young people some credit is that a lot of schools are failing young people because they're exam factories. So it takes great teachers and great mentors to be able to rewire these kids' brains and say, look, do you know what? There's a big wide world out there with your name on it. School just didn't enable you to succeed and fulfill your dream.
Epic. I mean, this is one of the things I used to love when I was teaching, is that the kids that would come to me at the beginning of like their 2-year journey, and they didn't know what they were going to do at the end of that 2 years. And so we take them on to BTEC, and maybe they didn't have maths, GCSE, English, GCSE, stuff like that. And I just taught them, parents, nobody in their family has ever gone to university. By the end of the 2 years, I've got a girl. Actually, there's a girl. She was the best footballer I've seen in any of my cohorts, right? Ever. She got asked to go and play for West Ham. They wanted to go play for her. She said no. She wasn't going to be allowed to come back for her second year because she'd been a bit of a pickle in the first year. She wrote an appeal letter. We got her back in for the second year. Do you know what she's done now? She's just finished her master's in law.
Class.
Yeah, I mean, nobody from her family had gone to uni before, gone from that, and been right down there all the way up, and they're the best students. So advice for young people now starting out in sport. What's their biggest bit of advice?
Yeah, hang around the right people, knock people's doors down.
Yes.
It's really hard for me at the moment. Let me say this, like loads of people ask for my help. And I really do try and return every email. I try and return every LinkedIn request. I probably spend more time saying that than I do anything else. But yeah, be kind to everyone, like respect everybody. But in terms of sport, really know your subject.
Yes.
Whatever sport your young people choose to go into, like you got to know your subject.
Yeah.
And then the final aspect to this really is knowing your subject, but also knowing that you don't know everything and having a growth mindset and being open-minded to everybody. I have a saying, Colin, you know all my sayings, everybody knows more than somebody.
Exactly, that's it. Everybody knows more than somebody. Perfect.
So just have the ability to be humble with your knowledge and understand, the final message really is it's taken me 20 years to get here. I work for obviously the national football team, so I work with the best youth athletes in the country. It's taken me 20 years to get there, not 20 months, not 20 days. So, a long time. So just understand, play the long game.
Yeah, play a long game. Mate, I mean, listen, honestly, Steve, I think this is one of these things that we could I feel like we've scratched the surface of you. Do you know what I mean? That's all it is. There's so much there that we could draw out is for you just to help our students, to help the staff, to help everybody that listens to this. But we'll have to call it a day there. I've got to shake hands to you because social distancing, mate. There you go. I like that. Just do that. Ding, ding. There we go. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for helping us today. And we'll see you again. Cheers, Steve.
Take care, everybody.